Good evening and welcome to another Nass week. I always love it anytime I have to say Nass week because it's another opportunity for me to let you know what has been happening, involving constituency projects or whatever it is happening at the National Assembly. And yes, while we're still not in session yet, a lot of things are happening at the National Assembly, talking about the committee level, different committees having meetings and holding that which they are meant to hold accountable to be able to satisfy Nigerians. Of course, the National Assembly is right there for us. My name is Cynthia Agua. I'm best believe that we have a lot of activities to share with you for this week. Lucky enough, unlike last week where there were no much activities. Now, I think we'll first of all start with some of the committee meetings that happened, and then we give you some very ridiculous, happenings, talking about constituency projects, story broke out. And of course, we will never hesitate to let you know what happened, in the news regarding to Senator Natasha. It is as it is that she has served her 6 months, but she might not be able to resume her duty in terms of serving her people. Just this evening, we saw a story, coming out saying that she was going to take actions regarding to that. But we'll give you all of that. At this point, I'm beginning to ask myself, where do we start from? Anyway, I think we should start with committee meetings. This week, there were several committees met up, to talk about what is happening, talking about from budget to finance, to that handling the issue of the rail. And I think we'll first of all start with the transport situation. Now, if you recall earlier this week, the transport minister was given a 48-hour summon. The House of Representatives gave him a summon, to appear before its committee on land transport over the last week's Abuja-Kaduna train derailment. And of course, the ultimatum follows the minister's failure to attend an investigative hearing on the incident that involved 618 passengers. So let's now look at the House of Reps, reaction to the minister not showing up to the summon.
Working with the minister. There is no doubt today in this country that our ministry, the Ministry of Land Transportation, and the minister himself is the worst performing minister as far as the scorecard of this administration is concerned.
Thank you.
There's no doubt about that.
Thank you.
There's also no doubt about the fact that the honorable minister has deliberately refused to be part of this meeting because of the gravity of his inefficiency and his incompetence and the disaster that it would have caused this nation. It is true that this parliament is on recess, and it is the gravity of what has happened that we are all here today. He has not been given any better job than any one of us that is here. The honorable minister has continued to treat this parliament with the highest level of disdain. He has never behaved like a man who went through this parliament. And Mr. Chairman, with all due respect, it is no longer time for us to continue to mesmerize the honorable minister and his agencies.
618 Nigerians were almost murdered because of the incompetence of the minister and his team. CCEC, from what I read from one of the Chinese magazines, was that the railway constructed by CCEC almost killed Nigerians. That was the caption of the headline, implying that perhaps it is possible that your tracks were constructed with very inferior materials. Perhaps, I said. I listened to my colleague referencing the fact that the Honorable Minister was once a parliamentarian and he understands the function of this parliament. To stay away when Nigerians get in moves was, to say the least, that the minister did not do any good service to Nigerians.
All right. So the first there, you heard it. You know, the strong words that were being used by Honorable Philip Agbese. You know, talking about the attitude of the minister in the light of him not presenting himself to the someone that was issued by the committee to look into this very matter. Now, this begs for concern because if we go down memory lane, people are beginning to lose, you know, ability or lose trust in the fact that the National Assembly is able to call ministers or call stakeholders to order, because it's always talk, 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 and no action. Now, I think this is the part where I would have to, you know, introduce my guest, because we do have a number of things to look at for this week, from the train derailment to budget issues to Natasha to what your lawmaker is doing for his constituency. And of course, he will be joining me to have this conversation, and then we'll be assessing some of these things together as it relates to Nigerians. And my guest this evening is not just a security expert. Of course, he is a political analyst in the person of Professor Ibrahim Abubakar. It's so great to have you, sir.
Yeah, good evening.
Good evening. So let's start with the train conversation. I'm sure you watched you heard the last part of the video. And what do you make of it? Do you think that that House of Assembly is really handling the issue well in terms of calling those involved to order?
For one, the House of Assembly, which is a legislative sector, because we have three forms of governance: the executive, the legislators, and the judiciary. But in this way, since 1999 till date, the legislators has never acted as legislators representing the people. So the ministers override most of the functions of, or most of the headings of, the legislators. The National Assembly, we know, are just like a figurehead. So if you are not part and parcel of the appointment of the ministers, or just as the exercise is in Nigeria, where you say bow and take a bow and go, what else and what rule or override function did you have over such person who is a minister? So if they have invited any of these ministers and they didn't appear like the Minister of Transportation, you have no cause to blame the minister. Because over time, it is a repeated thing that a minister, even invited, will send a representative to the National Assembly. So this is not there's no difference whatsoever. So if the minister refused to go, there is no penalty for that minister.
So what do you think should be because we cannot keep moving and saying, okay, because this has been happening for a good number of years and the National Assembly seems to be epileptic in handling the situation, what would you suggest would be a proper way to handle a minister who doesn't think that it is necessary to respond to the summon of the National Assembly?
When no minister has been reprimanded over time, and there is no rules and policy framework in place on what the National Assembly or the legislator will do to a minister who in one way or the other has defaulted or not abide to the call, these rules are not in place. because the executive has taken advantage of the legislators. And whatever the executive says, it is binding on everybody, the legislators, even down to the judiciary. But we are talking of the legislators here. So the primary assignment of the legislator is being underplayed. So if you listen to the last speaker and in the committee, you find out that he's showing his grievancy, and that grievancy he showed was not supposed to be channeled the way he has channeled it, because he's supposed to call for an order, and that order is supposed to be respected. But when you are not calling to the order, to an order, you are talking of the derailment. This is not the first time. You find out that we were having bandits and terrorist attacks on the same rail some years back, where people were abducted and kidnapped. There was no security measure put in place. And if you view from Itakwe to Warri, a similar thing has also happened. So from Port Harcourt to Aba, it has happened. So what security measures has been brought? Because there's what we call security engineering. You cannot just finish a construction work without security engineers coming in. And that is where we have the undercover security, which is called industrial or productive espionage. We don't do it. We allow some craftsmen to come here who we call engineers, but who peruse them, who profile them, who do their job. So are we actually having a double gauge rail system in Nigeria? The answer is no. So we have not upped ourselves to modernization, and the security is lacking behind, because the only thing we know about security here is to protect life and properties. And security is more than protection of life and properties. So by the time we recognize where we are coming from, then we will be able to know where we are going to.
Absolutely. All right. That is a part of it. I'm sure there is a lot more to talk about when it comes to that. And how I wish that my guest here can actually tell me a good solution to, for a person who defaults. I think about 4 years back or some years back, there was this same conversation of summoning National Assembly. Some persons were saying National Assembly does not have the power, the constitutional power to summon the president or those working under him. There were lots of debates regarding to that. And as you were now, Prof, as you were now, what do you think would be a good punishment or punitive measure for a defaulting minister who decides not to obey or show up to the summon of the National Assembly? What do you think is the most appropriate punitive measure?
It is very easy. The same minister who refused to attend to the committee, the same minister will be invited now by the chairman of EFCC, who was also scrutinized by the National Assembly, and the minister will be there in the next few hours.
So it's almost like he is afraid of having financial crimes involvement than honoring the invite of the National Assembly to come explain to Nigerians.
Because the way the the way the National Assembly, just as I said, the legislators have sold their self. So they have, in their own, derailed from the normal procedures. So policies, framework, and acts are not established that give them the right to say these are punitive measures we have put in place if we invite A, B, C, and he refused to come.
Okay.
So as far as those established facts are not there, the policies are not there, there are no punitive measures taken, everybody can say, I am not coming.
I am not coming. Or my representative just go stand in for me and hear
And
what
that
they
is
have
what
to
is
say.
happening, because the representatives are always being sent. Sometimes they will look at their committee members from head to toe and I said, please, my PA, go and attend to them.
So this is a case of clear. What's the right word to use now? Nonchalant attitude, disrespectfulness towards the summon of the National Assembly. That has been established.
No, it's not nonchalant attitude. It's a display of arrogancy.
Okay, I think we'll leave that there. All right, let's now move on to, I did tell you a couple of committees had their sitting this week, and of course, a lot of summoning was done. Another person who was invited, I won't use the word someone now for this, who was also invited, to say a thing or two. We had the Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of Economy, Wale Adu, which of course he did, speak to the media afterwards, and he has said that Nigeria has achieved 80% implementation of the 2024 budget. And of course, he talked about it when he had the House Committee on Appropriation chaired by Honorable Abubakar Bichi. And of course, he did stress the importance of grassroots impacting projects. Although a lot of Nigerians are saying that when it comes to the budget, we are not heading anywhere yet. But let's hear what he has to say.
As is customary, we reviewed the budget performance, looked at 2024. Basically, overall, it's around 80%. And as you know, the budget for 2024 was extended by the National Assembly till December, so it is still running. So it is still a work in progress, it's still ongoing. And likewise, we looked at what is happening in 2025, and we put heads together to ensure that particularly the projects that touch the grassroots, that provide support and provide resources and facilities, the roads, irrigation, other infrastructure projects at the grassroots level are focused on and are given adequate attention and priority. And it's an ongoing discussion, it's an ongoing implementation of the budget faithfully and fully.
Basically, members are concerned seriously about that, and Minister of Budget and Minister of Finance also confirmed to us that Nigerians can see a lot of changes and developments for this budget. And Nigerians are really concerned about the budget implementations, which is co-mandate to the National Assembly. We have engaged with Minister of Finance and Minister of Budget. Both of them acknowledge that, and they agreed to work so hard so that at least Nigerians can see the progress of the budget today. 2024, 2025, it will be done as soon as possible. Before we reach out to 2026, you will see a serious changes between now to the end of the year. They have acknowledged, they have promised us, and let's see how far we can go.
Of all the achievements under President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and they commended the respect for the National Assembly and the excellent working relationship between the federal government, and they stated that they have supported all the major reform initiatives which have produced the result, including the latest tax reforms. It's an ongoing discussion. The committee and the executive have interfaced, and we appreciate what we need to do better.
So you heard it there. The minister said that the 2024 budget, which of course was extended to 2025 by the National Assembly, is still being implemented. And he boasts about that overall it has gotten to about 80%. That is what they are boasting of, which now I turn to my guest. We're still talking about 2024 budgets. We're still having to, keep checks to know how far it has gone. Do you think that we're making progress?
Well, I don't know the type of progress we are making because this is September already in 2025 and we are still talking of 2024. So when are we going to talk about 2025? And they said 80%. If 2024 is already 80%, so how many percent do we have in 2025?
Maybe we've not touched it.
So when are we going to start implementing 2025 project? And they are already dreaming of 2026. So are we going to combine these three budgets together? Or what economic term are we going to use for this? Is it economic malfunction or misappropriation of the economy? Because we just have to get a balance. So I don't see why the Minister of Finance and the economy and the Minister of Budget and Planning should even come to national TV or even come to the audience to speak about this. It is very, very degrading for a nation like Nigeria to start talking of a budget of 2024 in almost to the end of 2025. And we are talking of 80%, and we have not even talked of the budget of 2025.
So which now brings me to asking, who are we to blame here? Because I remember vividly, we were actually at the National Assembly when, during plenary at the Senate, where this 2024 budget extension, everyone, there was lots of eyes for it, talking about the extension to the end of this year. So now the minister could say, okay, I didn't sign up for it. I made my recommendations and the House decided that, okay, fine, there's going to be an extension to the end of the year. Nobody kicked against it. The ayes had it. So would it be fair? He just sit somewhere and ask himself, would it be fair that he's being blamed for an extension, knowing fully well that it wasn't exactly from him, from his table?
We have to blame the National Assembly because they are the legislators.
Okay.
So when you know that the budget of 2024 was not being implemented on, why did you have a budget for 2025?
Okay.
Because it's like your son having pocket money from you
and asking for another,
and he's telling you, I have not even finished what you have given me, and you are giving more. So are you doing him a favor or not? Because we are saying now that the 2024 budget is just about 80%. They said about, they did not even say 80%, about 80%. So it is either less than 80%, but not higher than 80%.
Higher 80%, yeah.
So if that is the issue, why do we budget for 2025? And where is the capital flow for 2025? Where is it? Who account for it? Because it's just like you have $1 million for 2025 and you have 1.5 million for 2025. We have $1 million for 2024 and you have 1.5 million in 2025. And you have not even finished the million. So what has happened to 1.5 million? We need an answer.
Absolutely. Nigerians most definitely need an answer. Just to also let you know that the budget, which was of course titled Budget of Renewed Hope, actually shows a proposed expenditure of 27.5 trillion naira, and of course an estimated revenue of 18.32 trillion for the 2024 fiscal year. And of course, I'm sure if you want more on that information, you can always get that available. But the big question now is, if we are yet to complete implementation of 2024 budget, when do we start looking at 2025 budgets? Don't forget that once it gets to 2026, all eyes will be looking at 2027, which of course is election year. Some persons refer to 2026 as pre-election year, which of course is actually pre-election year, but most people consider it as, oh, it's almost filled with election activities. And so at what point do we get to look into the most important matters of budgets? But we'll keep our fingers crossed, because I'm definitely sure that next week again, we might likely be having budget conversation. I am very, very optimistic that we're going to still have budget conversations by next week. But let's just move away from there very briefly, as there are other things that happened at the National Assembly, talking about committee meetings that also happened this week. And I'm just asking myself, where do we go? Okay, let's now look at that of we had the minister, of course, urges stronger monitoring to secure future generations, talking about that. Was also the minister of finance as well. We also have the auditor general talking about Nigeria's liability hit 143.5 trillion naira. This is coming from the auditor general, and of course he did make that statement where he was he disclosed that when he was addressing delegates of the Africa Association of Public Account Committees, organized by the House of Representatives Public Account Committee. Let us hear what he had to say regarding to that.
0.5 trillion. And out of it, external expenditure of the public, as at 31st December 2024, not audited yet, the public debts of the Federation stood at 143.5 trillion. And out of it, external component of the public debt, 68.8 trillion, and domestic debt component amounted to 74.6 trillion. Then, my role as the head of the Supreme Audit Institution of Nigeria: one, providing evidence-based reports on public debts by conducting audits that supply the Public Accounts Committee with factual and reliable data. Serve as the primary source of professional, independent financial analysis, guaranteeing objective and credibility in reporting on public debts. Debt sustainability, I examine compliance with borrowing laws, Fiscal Responsibility Act, assess the sustainability of debt level and repayment capacity through performance audit. Situation whereby borrowed money value is not derived from the borrowed money.
That is talking about our public debt and giving numbers, so much numbers. Now, if you look at your time, it is 7:30. And it's a time for us to go on a break. When we come back, I'll allow my guests to, say one or two things. And then we move into what is really happening this week, talking about Senator Natasha's resumption to duty. And of course, look at what some of our lawmakers are giving back to their constituency. Don't go anywhere. It's still Nass Watch. back. It is Nass Watch, and of course, let's now move on to the most interesting part of it, which is, of course, Senator Natasha. You will recall that she has been in the news for a number of things, from her situation with National Assembly, her suspension, court cases, a whole lot happening. Now, this week, there was a letter because she was supposed to resume at the expiration of her 6 months. But unfortunately, a letter was issued which talked about notice of resumption. And I would read the letter. I think we also have that letter right there. Let's have it on the screen. We talked about, I am directed to acknowledge the receipt of your letter notifying this office of your intention to resume sitting and other legislative duties in the Senate on the 4th of September 2025, which you claim is the date of the expiration of the 6-month suspension imposed on you. Now, the father went down to give reasons as to why she will not be able to resume, and say, our father decided to inform you that your suspension was with effect from Thursday, 6th of May 2025, and draw your attention to the fact that the subject matter of your suspension is presently before the Court of Appeal. The matter, therefore, remains sub judice, and until the judiciary process is concluded and the Senate formally reviews the suspension in the light of the court's pronouncement, no administrative action can be taken by this office to facilitate your resumption. That is what was, that was the response given to her. Now, just this evening, we saw a story that she has given a warning that if she is not allowed to resume her legislative duties by Monday, the 15th of September, she's going to take legal actions against the clerk to the National Assembly. Now, this is what Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan, the senator representing Kogi Central, had to say as at this evening. Let me now turn to my guest. This is a whole lot of back and forth. Where do you stand in all of this?
The truth remains that we are getting politically blinded by those who are sitting on a political platform, because these are happening because we don't have political parties in Nigeria. We all have political platforms. And these political platforms are just one-man interest group against the general public. So you have no say whatsoever because it's a fight for self-aggrandizement. So those who are claimed to one court remain in that court and will not want to leave that court to accommodate others who are not members of that court. That is exactly what is happening. As far as this issue of Natasha is concerned, it is a way to test the time of leadership in Nigeria. So what type of leadership rule do we have? Is it anarchy? Is it democracy? Is it run by capitalists, socialists, or communists? So we, the public, are the ones that suffer, whereas it is a clandestine game. The National Assemblies are not ready to tell us the truth, and the court members are not ready to tell us the truth.
What is this truth you speak of, Prof? What is this truth aside from what is being made public?
No, nothing is made public to us. They tell us what we want to hear, or what they feel we have to hear, and that we have to accommodate. But if we don't want to accommodate, they will tell us the truth.
So you're saying that Natasha's allegation to the Senate leader saying, oh, she was sexually harassed is not the truth? Or the Senate leader saying, no, that never happened. You were just taken down from committees that were profitable and then you're reacting? Or your seat was just changed for reasons best known to us?
Generally, in general term, when in the National Assembly, which is the legislators, spearhead an issue that goes viral into court and have a period of stand, then you now ask for 6 months, what were the judiciary doing? What has the executive done? What has the political parties done, if we have one? So, no, the political parties has not done anything. The platforms has not done anything. The court has not done anything. The executives has not done anything. The judiciary has not done anything. So the judiciary cannot tell me that we don't have any reason to hold them accountable if in 6 months of this suspension, they were not able to resolve this issue entirely in its totality. We also have to hold the parties. Since there is no party, then we don't have anybody to hold responsible in the parties. So if the platform who accommodate these people cannot resolve the issue in 6 months, and they have no right, because to say they have suspended Natasha and Natasha cannot resume after 6 months because of an issue that is in court. So what happened to Akpabio? Because he went to court too. So why are you still sitting and presiding over the National Assembly when you also went to court?
So this is a matter of abuse of power or using power over another person who is...
This is an issue of misrepresentation in the deeds of the people against the same people.
So in this case now, what do you suggest? Because you've made you just pointed out something very, very significant. The Senate leader himself is also having a case in court. And so, but he has still been performing his duties, and still having sittings. Yet, the senator who has the case cannot resume. So what do you, in this particular situation, what do you recommend to happen? And also, what do you foresee happening on the 15th? Because she's saying that she is going to take legal action. What other kind of legal action could she possibly take?
As the Senate president, right from time, will have excused himself from the Senate.
Okay.
Because he has a case to answer. The accused
and the accuser.
And the accuser. So you have to excuse yourself. But there is this court that is sitting in the same power as executives, who will not allow that to take place because they want the game to play on. The more the game plays on, the more they show their superior power. And that superiority has made us to know that these people don't have their self-esteem, and they are more complex in inferiority than meet the eyes. So they are not serving anybody's interest. They are serving their own personal interest, because the judiciary, the legislation, and the executives are in their palm.
Absolutely. All right. That being said, just to also let you know the content of the letter, which was signed by her lawyer, talking about Michael Numas, and he said, take notice that failure to comply by Monday will leave us with no alternative but to initiate proceedings against you personally and in your official capacity. And of course, Numa said that the CNN's alleged refusal to obey an existing court judgment was against the law and the code of conduct for public public officers. And of course, he added that the proposed legal step could include contempt charges, disciplinary action, and of course, holding the CAN responsible for instigating a breach of peace. Well, I think at this point, I would say let's keep our fingers crossed and wait till Monday to see what happens. But if you look at our time, we don't really have much time. But let's just dive into the last thing we have for today, because it will be an error if we don't share that. I mean, lawmakers always have their constituency projects, but this particular one, it's a unique kind of constituency project. Let's look at that. We hear that a particular honorable decided to empower his people. We're talking about Anambra lawmaker Dom Okafo. He distributed branded wheelbarrow to his people, that is the Aguta constituents, as a constituency project. I mean, and someone said, it actually made it to trending. Someone said, Anambra Rep Honorable Dominic Okafo, representing Aguta, empowers constituents with wheelbarrow, cutlass, and rake. This is it. Some persons were arguing that probably he is a state, at the state level, but no, he's actually at the federal level, not at the state level. So, but this is it. I thought that by now that we've moved past this level of cutlass and wheelbarrow type of constituency project. I thought that we were more innovative, we were more expanded in what our lawmakers give out in terms of constituency project. It's just a shame. It beats my imagination that in 2025, we're still having people give out these sort of things as constituency projects. And Prof, in 1 minute, how would you want to react to this?
What will you react to when somebody tells you that you are poverty ridden? Because if it's not throwing people into more trench of poverty, he will not give them wheelbarrow, cutlass, and rakes. He will never try that. Why didn't he give it to his children? Because logically, what you know that is not fit for your consumption, you should not give it to another person.
Absolutely.
How many out of school children are in Aguata local government? How many out of school children? So why didn't he bring them back to school? Why didn't he have skill acquisition centers where they can learn a skill and being empowered to be on their own independently? So what would wheelbarrow, cutlass, and rake do for them?
Very valid question right there. What will wheelbarrow? Some might want to argue that, oh, maybe the people in that community, they are on that constituency, they are so moved to farming, and so he's trying to, close the farming gap.
So, what if you are talking of farming? You can only use a cutlass to clear.
Well, I'm not making excuses
No,
for
no,
him. I'm just saying some might be watching and want to argue towards that line.
Let us get it clear, because we are educating the people.
Absolutely.
So if you say farming, you can only use the cutlass to clear and the rake to remove what you have cleared. So what are you going to plant?
No seeds.
So is it wheelbarrow? Because the wheelbarrow is just to remove the weeds, to take the weeds to a dump, finish. So what else will you use? So you cannot say because the people are doing agribusiness, then you have empowered them with wheelbarrow, cutlass, and rake. It's not making any sense.
Absolutely. All right. As we get set to wrap up, our time is far gone. This is just a reminder for us to always hold our lawmakers lawmakers accountable. This is the time for you to really check and balance to see what they are really doing for their constituency. It will not be complete if we don't mention that a former senator and Labour Party governor candidate in the 2023 election has actually said that National Assembly is working on a bill to legalize cannabis for medicinal and economic use. I think I would pause on that.
No, don't pause. We can talk about it.
Well, okay. So, Prof, can you talk about that in just 1 minute as we run out of here?
I have said it in the National Assembly that we should legalize cannabis because Nigerian can make 50 billion US dollars from cannabis alone.
Okay.
Not just the oil, but the medicinal value. And that would discourage the intake of cannabis by our people.
Do you really
because
think so?
Yes, because you will plant 1 hectare of cannabis and you can make millions of dollars from it, would not want to sell to anybody. In that, people will be discouraged from the consumption of cannabis. I can give you the test analysis, the result, and the extension. Cannabis oil alone in Nigeria can give us millions of dollars.
Okay.
So when you go back to the medicinal value, you already have some billions of dollars. So, and that is why sometimes I talk about our security bodies not channeling their energy to research. But if you go into research and find out what cannabis can do for this country, you'll find out that the revenue is massive.
Okay.
And that will also actually discourage the abuse of it.
Okay.
Because you will not sell something of 1,000 naira to somebody
when you can make so much more.
When you can make so much money from it.
Okay. All right. I think some years back there were conversations in one of the states, in the West, and there were some surveys being done, but not much have been heard in that regard. And according to Achonu, he is saying that it's a green gold. He describes as green gold, and a lot can be done. We have, according to him, he says when that is done, Nigerians will demonize the usage and fact that it is projected at $100 billion before the end of this decade. And of course, he says that Nigeria has the right climate, fertile soil, and manpower to dominate this industry. And so we should just watch others build on this, and why we just use that as a societal menace, because when people take this and abuse it, they become a menace to the society. Anyway, that's the much we can take on Nass Watch this beautiful evening. Thank you so much to my guest, Prof. Ibrahim, for coming through on the show this beautiful evening and for adding your thoughts on some of the stories from the National Assembly. I do hope that you will keep following the conversations on our social media platform on Facebook, on Instagram, on X, and of course on our TikTok as well. This episode, of course, there will be a repeat on Sunday, same time. And of course, you can go to our YouTube channel to watch this program and of course others of our very many interesting program right there at Official Rappi TV. My name is Cynthia Agbo. Don't forget the news will come up at about 8 o'clock. From me to you, have yourself a beautiful Friday ahead.